Hi guys, my name is Emily and I live in Ukraine. But first, before you comment, please watch the whole video. Especially if you are not Ukrainian, if you've never been to Ukraine, or you are not currently in Ukraine. You need more than a 5-minute Google search to understand what is going on, okay? So please at least watch to the end of this video and for part 2, because I'm gonna have to do this in 2 parts at least, maybe 3. So please watch those before you comment, okay? I have to be extremely careful what I say here. A lot of videos are getting taken down, even for reporting the truth. So please understand what I am trying to say. There is a big country that is neighbors with Ukraine. I know that not everybody in this country agrees with their government. They have very little control over their government, and I don't hate them. I have friends there, I have friends from there. I understand that the individual people are different than the government. But for the simplicity's sake, if I'm referring to that country, which I will not be speaking by name so it doesn't get flagged, is the enemy. I know not every individual person in this country is the enemy. I tried to separate the people in the government with different terms, but it got too confusing. So I'm just gonna have to call everyone the enemy, but please understand that I'm not trying to be anti this country as a whole, okay? Because I don't like when people do that. I'm gonna be talking about something that I will call unverified information or misinformation, but also please understand that there's another word that I'm referring to as well. And I don't even want to say that word because that word has also been flagged in people's videos, even when they're debunking myths. And that is, if you're British, it sounds very much like a propaganda, but even more British where you drop the R's, push it together. Y'all know what I'm saying, okay? The enemy is launching a huge campaign against Ukraine right now in this misinformation. And I'm talking about it so that you understand what it is and how to combat it. Because this is not the time for silence. I need you to talk to people about it. At least if you know they're real people you know in real life or on Facebook. Okay, don't spend hours arguing with somebody online. That could very easily be an AI bot. But please, I need you to try to counter this misinformation wherever and whenever you can. I'm going to be talking about 7 biggest lies that I have seen in the media about Ukraine and this war. Lie number 1. In Donetsk and Luhansk especially, Ukraine has been killing anyone who speaks with the enemy language. This is absolutely not true, okay? It is a controversial and hot topic issue at times, which language someone decides to learn to speak, but they are not killed for it. Even us, we learned the other language. We didn't learn Ukrainian yet because most of the people we were with only spoke the other one. So we kind of had to learn it to communicate. We are planning on learning Ukrainian, especially being in Western Ukraine where it is more common. But honestly, if you come here, you need to learn both. And the Constitution of Ukraine guarantees the right of its citizens to learn and speak any language that they want. Line number 2, the enemy is supposedly trying to get rid of people who are being like the bad guys from World War II, the Axis powers. President Zelensky is Jewish. So I'm not sure how this one makes any sense. And if you're really trying to be the moral high ground here and stop this threat, there are other countries with a lot worse Axis movement and thoughts. But it's not here. Bombing the entire country is not going to get rid of that. It's not like they're sending in snipers to professionally kill individual people. They're bombing the whole country. So I'm not sure how that's helpful. Line number 3. The enemy is not firing on civilians. They were told not to. They're only firing at government buildings and military buildings. Or it was Ukraine that was doing it, and Ukraine is making it up. Those kind of go hand in hand, so I'm addressing them together. Honestly, this one hurts me the most. And it's BS. We have seen it with our own eyes. It's just not true. Are there some accidental strikes where they mean to hit government buildings and then an accident hit something close by? I'm sure there are some of those. But not all of them.
The Geneva Convention articles prohibit direct attacks on civilians, hospitals, and nuclear power plants, among others. The enemy troops have done this multiple times, including on camera. These are not just missiles or bombs from a plane. They come from tanks and soldiers who know exactly what they are aiming at. They have fired at fleeing women and children on foot. They have blown up cars of refugees, and they have shot directly at homes and apartment buildings. This is a typical village neighborhood. This is not near any government buildings. This tank did not lose control. It is a deliberate act to run over this car. You can watch it from other angles as well.
Ukrainians are not the one who shot civilian cars and then physically blocked the ambulances from reaching them. Ukrainians are not firing on their own hospitals, blood banks, orphanages, and kindergartens. Every time I think I'm done editing, I open the news and I see more. It's constant. It is constant. I could make a 17-minute video just on everything that's happened. For 2 days, people have been trying to evacuate Mariupol. There was supposed to be a ceasefire to allow that to happen. The enemy has kept shelling, and no one's been able to leave. They're running out of food. No one can get in or out. It's infuriating, and it's illegal. They're also not firing on nuclear power plants, okay? They saw how that went with Chernobyl. They know what nuclear disasters look like. They're not gonna risk that again. They are terrified at what is happening at Chernobyl and the other one I can't pronounce, but I'll put it up here. They're terrified that there will be another giant disaster because of the carelessness of the enemy. Ukraine's not gonna do that. And it was verified, by the way, that the projectile that hit the building belonged to the enemy, not to Ukraine trying to defend it. Ukrainians are badass. They will stop tanks with their bare hands. They will stand in the way of military convoys. They will confront soldiers unarmed. They will yell at them. They will throw Molotov cocktails. They will do anything to protect their nation, but they're not cruel. They're not firing on their own people. You know what they have done? They've treated the captured soldiers, the enemy soldiers, with kindness and compassion. They have treated their wounds. They have treated them very well. They've let them call their mothers and let them know where they are and what's happening. President Zelensky, in his speech, literally said, if the mothers wanted to come and pick up their sons, he'd let them go home. They treat these boys with compassion because they know and understand that they have been drowned in their own misinformation from their own country. They have been lied to and manipulated against and tricked into coming here in some circumstances. But they don't bomb themselves. That would make no sense. Okay, if you are one of the people who thinks this, you don't know anything about Ukraine. You do not realize how terrible their economy has been since 2014. They're barely recovering from that. They're barely recovering from being a part of the Soviet Union. There's construction everywhere right now because they're finally able to build back. They finally have the money to build back. It would make absolutely no economic sense for them to do this. They're not going to get any money out of it. They're wasting money if they were actually doing this as a ploy. Almost 2 million people have left or are planning to leave Ukraine. That seems real good for your economy. I will tell you that most of the stores are closed here. Unless you are a grocery store or a pharmacy, they're closed. And not all of them are open. That's why there's long lines. Not even the banks are open, people. We have been trying to go and withdraw cash so we can buy a vehicle. And banks are closed. How would this be helpful to anyone's economy? How? Lie number 4, Ukraine wants to be part of the enemy's country again. They don't. For the most part, they don't. There's a tiny minority in the east, near the border. Here's why. Under the Soviet Union, a lot of people moved around. They were either relocated for work or they traveled. Ukraine had great land, and so it was an attractive place to go. There are ethnic enemy, and I hate saying it that way, people who live in Ukraine, and there are ethnic Ukrainians who live in enemy territory. They didn't get to choose where the borders were drawn. So I understand why it is difficult for some of them when the border was drawn right next to your house, separating you from your family. I get that. But it's a very small minority. You've probably heard a lot about Donetsk and Luhansk in the news. They were declared independent by the enemy last week, right before this whole thing started. Well, back in 2014, a small separatist movement started there, but it was not enough for the enemy to consider it like, oh, the whole region wants to come, so we'll take it over like we did with Crimea. It just was not a clear-cut decision. And it turns out that most of them are probably enemy saboteurs and backed by the state of the enemy. I can't go into that too much in this video because it would make it super long and deserves its own video. And you can also watch Winter on Fire that explains that a lot better than I can. But long story short, for most Ukrainians, they do not want a reunified Soviet Union in any way, shape, or form. Even in the areas that have been overrun and taken over now, that the enemy is claiming they want to be part of us, like we're helping to free them. They're protesting. Right now, they're going and screaming at soldiers to go home. That's the behavior of someone who wants to leave their country and join the other one. I'm gonna end this part here. The second part should be up today, very soon. But subscribe so that you can keep up with all of my updates. If you have any questions, you can ask nicely and respectfully. We'd love to have an open dialogue about this. If you've heard something that you would like me to address, please let me know. I'm going to be addressing some more big topics in the next one. But if there's something that you really, really want to see, like, go ahead and comment and I will do my best to answer those. Until next time, thank you for watching.